Hey, what's going on everyone? Back with another update for this mega website case study. So this is the third video in this series of the updates, and this update will also be covering month 6 of this website, which is completely built on a brand new domain name. So some of the things I'm going to be covering in this video are some of the current stats for the website, the spends, the word count, that kind of stuff. Moving on to the Google Search Console, the traffic for the month of July, the traffic spread that I'm getting at the moment, the revenue with Ezoic, the EPMV, and a major mistake that I made when setting up the ads. Some of the benefits and downsides of front-loading content on websites, which is the strategy that I'm using for this website. The backlink strategy, or the lack thereof one, that I'm using. So the backlinks, this is a very common question that I received on the last two videos. So I'll just be briefly covering that. I'll also cover some of the plugins that I'm using. Again, this is a very frequent question that I got. And I'll also be covering a potential solution on how to find content that needs to be updated. So I did put a call out in my last video. So thank you for everyone that did comments. There were some really awesome suggestions in there. And I also found a couple of solutions that I think might help those out there that are finding this to be a kind of a troublesome issue for their website. And lastly, I just want to do a couple of shout outs to some people in the space that have really influenced me for this website and the strategy that I'm following. So going back to the very start, so this is the traffic growth of the website since the inception, which was around the start of February up until the 31st of July. So as you can see, not much was happening for the first 3 months. And in the last 2 months, things really started having to take off, which is really good to see. So I'll cover traffic more in a little bit, but just moving over to the stats of the website. So at the moment, I have 1,050 posts published, 950,000 words, and I've invested around $45,000 into this website. And this is just quite a large sum really for a particular website. I previously did sell a website at the start of the year, so I am reinvesting some of those profits into this new project. But nonetheless, that is still quite a substantial investment. And I have been doing this for over 10 years now. So if I was starting out, there is no way that I would put this much money into a website. But during that time, I have had a lot of failures and some successes. So I have kind of honed my skills, and I have, well, I'd like to think I have quite a good grasp on what I am doing. So this is a calculated kind of risk that I am taking on this particular website. I do think the stars have aligned a little bit. So that is why I am pouring in so much time and capital into this website, as I do think there is such a great opportunity. So typically in the past, I'd maybe invest maybe $5,000 to $10,000 on the high end. I would let that sit for 6 to 12 months, see how that kind of responds in Google, and then I would either invest more time or just let it sit and say that was maybe not the best niche or not the best content. So that's where I'm currently at with the website. So now moving on to the Google Search Console. This is just a brief snapshot. So just like the traffic, this is trending in the right direction. That's pretty much on par with what you'd see with the traffic, the impressions and the clicks. And as for the average click-through rate and the average position, those two metrics look like they have stabilized, which is kind of good to see. I don't want to see too many fluctuations for these two lines. And like I said in the previous video, I think the average click-through rate is quite low. And this is primarily because I'm focusing on the Google snippet. So this is a double-edged sword, because obviously you do have to give away free traffic, but in saying that, you can really skyrocket the growth of the website, because as long as you get onto, say, position 9 or the front page of Google, that can automatically skip you up to position 0. So there is a little bit of a trade-off there, but you know, I think Google is competing with TikTok. You know, there is a kind of a market for really quick content. So I think Google just has to deliver these Google snippets just to stay competitive with other platforms out there like TikTok. So from a user experience, it's really good, but from a publisher's point of view, it's not the best, but that's kind of just the world that we're currently living in from my point of view. And on this top screenshot here, we also have the indexing of the posts. And for whatever reason, at the end of July, for about 4 days, things just dropped off. I'm not exactly sure what happened here. Fortunately, this wasn't mirrored in the traffic. I think this was just an internal glitch in the Google Search Console. And another interesting thing is that the gray here, which is indicated by the crawled but currently not indexed posts, that has slowly been declining month over month, which is good to see. So I think maybe Google is either getting on top of these indexing issues, or maybe just because this website is gaining momentum that they're maybe paying a little bit more attention to it. So that's where I'm at with the Google Search Console. Now with the traffic, I think this is by far my favorite screenshot. So for the month of July, I hit 217,000 unique page views and 236,000 page views. So I think this is just really insane traffic for a website that is only 6 months old, and it's built on a completely fresh domain name. This isn't dropped, it isn't expired. This is just fresh from Namecheap. So I think this is definitely one of the major benefits of front loading this much content, is that you can start to see really, really quick results. But as I'll cover in a little bit, there are some risks and some downsides to this. But nonetheless, I am really, really happy to see this traffic. My goal for this month, was to hit 210,000 page views and 7,500 daily page views. So I have exceeded that, which I'm really, really happy to see. I wasn't sure if I was going to hit it, but towards the end of the month, things really did start to take off, which was really great to see. So moving on to the traffic spread. So this is something that I've really started to pay close attention to over my last couple of websites, because I think Sean Mars covered this and a couple others in their videos that said if you have 100 blog posts and 3 of them bring in 10% of the traffic each, and if some of those blog posts decline, then you can potentially lose quite a significant chunk of your traffic. So this is something that I really have been focusing on, especially in my latest projects. So this is the top 13 posts, and as you can see, the top post brings in 3.8% of the traffic. Below that is 3.29, 2.43, and then pretty much below that is around the 1%. And then I think below the top 30, it's going down below 1%. So I'm pretty happy with this spread. There's no one page bringing in like a significant amount of traffic. So this is a really, really good metric, especially if you're looking to sell the website down the track. Potential investors don't want to kind of add any risk or any one point of failure that can really drop the revenue and the traffic of the website. So moving on to the revenue, so I have Ezoic ads on the website. So I initially wasn't going to put ads on the site at all, but I thought I may as well, just to kind of get some early kind of indications and metrics on potential RPM, EPMV, and how much the traffic might be worth. Because initially I just planned on moving over to Mediavine or AdThrive, but I thought I may as well connect with Ezoic. I already have an account with them, so setting up the ads was really easy, so I thought I may as well. So anyway, for the revenue for the month of July, the website did earn $2,243, but in saying that, I am spending around maybe $4,000 to $6,000 a month. So none of this is profit, that's just earnings for the website. But nonetheless, really good to see. And the next thing that I wanted to show you guys is, as you can see here, the revenue has been increasing slowly over the month. However, if I go over to the EPMV, which is Ezoic's metric for how much the traffic is worth, this is actually going in the opposite direction. So I was a little bit confused as to why this was happening. There was a slow decline pretty much from the end of June all the way through July. So this is 91% US traffic. So I thought from my previous websites, I would have at least, at minimum, getting $15 EPMV on my websites, because as we all know, American traffic is high value traffic. So I wasn't really paying too much attention to this. I was only logging in every couple of days, but again, I was quite confused as to what was going on. So at the end of July, Ezoic support actually did reach out to me, and they just said, hey, by the way, you haven't turned on your ads.txt file. So for whatever reason, I thought I had set this up when I slapped on the ads, but for whatever reason, this passed me and I didn't set it up. And simply put, an ads.txt file is almost like a prerequisite for a lot of advertisers. If you do not have it, they simply will not put their ads on your website. And this is mainly because it allows for more transparency between the advertisers and the publishers. And this means that you miss out on some really top tier advertisers that simply will not be showing ads on your website. So I turned that on at around the 30th of July, I think. And then for this next screenshot, as you can see, the EPMV and the earnings pretty much skyrocketed, and they're still continuing to grow, which is really, really awesome to see. So if you think you have ads.txt file, maybe just double check, because like me, I made a huge mistake and didn't setting that up. So that was a bit of a blunder, but nonetheless, I'm really, really happy to see where the EPMV is sitting at the moment. At the time of making this video, I think it's hovering around $20, so it's almost doubled since turning that on. And this isn't the start of a new quarter or anything like that, so I can contribute that increase in EPMV to adding that ads.txt file. And it really is quick. It only takes a few minutes to put on, and there's a really helpful tutorial on Ezoic if you're looking to do that as well. So moving on to the next slide, I briefly wanted to cover the benefits and downsides of front-loading this much content onto a website. So I actually got this idea to do this by John Dykstra from FatStack's blog. Highly recommend checking him out. He's got a really awesome newsletter and a podcast. So for some of his websites, I believe from memory, he does tend to front load the content. And this essentially means that you can get quicker growth, quicker results, quicker earnings. So these are the benefits down here: fast feedback, insane growth. But on the flip side of the coin, it can be more high risk, because if you pick the wrong niche or the wrong topics to cover, then that capital investment will just not go anywhere, just like any other investment. So you do have to make a calculated risk, and you do have to be quite confident and have some experience, I believe, in my own opinion, on what you are doing. Because if you just think you might know the particular niche and you invest a lot of time or money and you front load a lot of the content, then it simply might not work. As opposed to a traditional strategy where you might publish 50 posts, 100 posts, do kind of like a minimum viable product, come back in 6 months, see how that's working, and then make a decision based on that feedback. But with this particular strategy, you really don't see any of that feedback for around 4 months. But during that time period, you're still investing a lot of time and money. So I'd say this is a more high risk, high reward strategy that I'm following, but it does seem to be paying off in this particular situation. So I thought I'd just briefly cover that, because I know the growth of this website is quite fast, but this is by far the first time I've ever done this, and I am quite surprised by the results. Typically, it would take me maybe 1.5, 2 years to get where I am at the moment, but to reach it in 6 months, it is high growth, but you also do have to look that this is a very high risk approach as well. So I did just want to share that this is one of the realities of picking this particular strategy. So moving on to the backlinks. So I'd say by far this is the most common question that I received on my last 2 videos. A lot of the comments were saying like, how much outreach do you do? How much do you pay for links? What backlinking approach do you kind of do? And essentially, I don't do any of those things. I have done them in the past, and they're just simply a pain in the ass. I hate doing backlinks So I tend to approach backlinks in a more passive way. So I have Haro here, which definitely isn't passive, but it is kind of an approach where I don't have to think about it too much. It's more set and forget. So I have one of my team members. She's an absolute legend. She goes in and she does 5 Haro responses every day. So 25 a week, and I pay her $100 a week to do those. And that tends to get me 1 to 2 links a week. So they're definitely not the cheapest links. But when compared to like a shotgun skyscraper outreach or any of those other outreaches, I'd say the efficiency is about the same as to the amount of capital that you put in. But this is more easily outsourceable as to setting up like a really thorough process for doing like a backlinking outreach strategy. So this is nonetheless a really good strategy. I have received a few really good links from this so far for this website. And additionally, I do tend to only use this strategy for the first 6 to 12 months of the website, just to kind of get those backlinks coming in, get the momentum going. And then I transition from this to the link-based strategy, which is by far my favorite link strategy out there for myself personally. So I do think this is a really, really passive approach. And I covered this briefly in my previous video, but simply put, a link bait is an article where someone's researching for their own blog post. Maybe it's a writer or a blog owner. So they need to reference some information for the article that they're writing. So this could be anything like, I don't know, from the top of my head, gardening, trends, benefits of gardening, disadvantages of gardening, those types of things that someone would be curious to know about when writing their own blog post. So from my previous websites, I have deployed this strategy, and I'm also deploying it for this one. So it definitely isn't a quick strategy. You have to write these posts. They might take 12 months to rank. However, once they do, they can kind of bring you in consistent, really, really cheap links over the long term. And as an example, if you pay $60 for a 1,500 word link bait post, that might take 12 months to rank. But once it does, that might bring you in 10 links over the life cycle of that particular post. So that equates to a $6 cost per link acquisition. And then you also don't have to invest the time of going back and forth with people as well. So this is a very passive way of building links, in my opinion. So moving on to the plugins and the theme that I'm using for the website. So again, this was a very common question that I received in the last video. So I'll just quickly go through these. So Link Whisper for internal links, Yoast SEO. This is a pretty old school SEO plugin, but pretty much the main reason I use it is just to no-index category pages, author pages, archive pages. And additionally, I like to use it for the year shortcode in the SEO title. So it's percentage, current year percentage. So this means I don't have to go back at the start of every year, go through 1,000 posts and change the year out. So that's pretty much the main 2 reasons that I use this. I pay no attention whatsoever to the green, amber, and red light. I think that's completely rubbish. I don't pay any attention to that. Those are the only 2 things that I use this for. So really simple SSL certificate plugin, that's pretty standard. Blog Vault for daily backups. Classic editor. I'm personally not a big fan of Gutenberg. I do find it does get in the way when publishing content, so I do opt for the classic editor. I'm using Short Pixel for image compression, and I've actually transitioned from GeneratePress to StudioPress. So I've actually used StudioPress for maybe close to 4 years now. I did try out GeneratePress, but I think the simplicity of StudioPress I actually do prefer. So I've actually swapped my website back to this, and I do find it is a little bit faster from my experience. So that's pretty much what I'm using for my website. I do like to keep things very, very minimal, keep it fast, keep it slim. So moving on to the next slide. So in my last video, I did a call out to all of you out there for potential solutions or what you do to find old content that needs to be updated. So this is whether the content is slowly declining over time, whether it's not as fresh anymore, maybe there's new competition that's kind of above where that post initially was. And this can also include posts that maybe just didn't rank, or maybe they're not receiving as much traffic as you would have liked, so you need to go back and optimize those posts. So with this website, I do plan on having a couple of thousand of posts, so I really want to set up a solution now so I don't have to come back in 1-2 years down the track and try and figure something else and just be pulling my hair out. So thank you for everyone that did share their comments and solutions. There were some really, really awesome answers in there. And I also did a bit of digging myself. I think someone might have actually recommended this. I can't remember from memory. But this was maybe the best solution that I have found to date. And this is by using the phrase.io tool. So this is specifically more catered to doing content briefs, but they also do have a content analytics feature that connects to your Google Search Console. And within that feature, they also have a content decay feature where you can set up triggers, and it notifies you of posts that are slowly declining over a set amount of time. And they can also give you notifications of opportunity posts, posts that are maybe ranking that have a lot of impressions but not much clicks, that you can go back and optimize. And in addition to this, I also found a really, really awesome guide on the Ahrefs blog. And that is by far the best one that I've found on kind of a flowchart on what to do when you find these posts, whether you should delete them, 301 them, pay more attention to them, and so on. So I'll leave a link down to the Ahrefs blog and also the phrase tool as well. So moving on to the last slide, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to these two YouTubers and bloggers, Passive Income Geek, and the Fat Stacks blog. So for the longest time, I've been in affiliate marketing. However, after watching these two bloggers, they both really have great YouTube channels, which I highly recommend checking out. And John also has a really, really awesome podcast as well, which has some absolute gold in there. Highly, highly recommend it. So like I said, I was doing affiliate marketing, and I wanted to transition over to an ad-based business model. And these two guys are absolutely crushing it in the space. They pretty much follow the same process, produce really good content, and target low competition keywords or topics, and then you pretty much just scale that up and have an ad-based business model. So I actually haven't taken any of the courses by these two people, funnily enough, but I've just gotten so much value just by reading their blog posts and their newsletters and going through their videos. So I really do need to get around to taking these courses, as I'm sure I'm missing out on a lot of information. But if you're just starting out and you're looking for some really helpful free resources, then I'd highly recommend checking these two guys out, because a lot of the questions that I received in my last videos, there's no way I could cover that with just a simple comment reply. But if you are looking for more in-depth information, then again, I'd check these two guys out. And additionally, one other thing that I wanted to kind of ask you all out there is what videos you want to see. And additionally, I am looking at making a kind of frequently asked questions video in the coming maybe weeks or months, where I'll take the top comments from the comment section and I'll just quickly kind of reply to those comments in a video format. So I thought that would just kind of just be a helpful way of helping you out there for kind of particular questions that you have that need a more in-depth answer rather than just a reply in the comments section. So that's pretty much it for this month update. Hope all of you are going well in your own blogging journey, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.